Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, dear viewers. Welcome back to AmaniTv for another insightful question too. Today we have the honor to receive Amaha Kassa. Amaha, welcome to AmaniTv.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
It's a pleasure. So today we're going to discuss key social and community issues. We have the pleasure to welcome you here. So maybe my first question will be about you. Can you just please tell us about, more about you, your activities? I know you are the founder of a great organization, which is African Immigrant, which works for African immigrant in the U.S. African Communities Together, yes. ACT.
Yes.
Can you please tell us more about you and your organization?
Yes. So I am an immigrant from Ethiopia to the U.S. I came to the U.S. as a small child. I was raised in the U.S. and educated in the U.S. And at the time that I was growing up, there were not a lot of organizations of Africans in the U.S. The population of Africans in the U.S. has grown steadily year by year. Today there are more than 2 million people who were born in the immigrants who were born in Africa and live in the U.S. And that doesn't include children and spouses and families. Okay. So it's a growing population, but there have been very few organizations like nonprofits, NGOs, that are directly focused on this community. And so we are now one of the largest in the country.
Okay, and by the way, you created an organization. I talked about it a while ago. It is African Community. Yes. How did you do to create it, and yes. What was maybe your motivations? Mm-hmm.
So I was already working within nonprofits and NGOs for many years, for about 10, 12 years. And really, I was watching these conversations unfold about immigration, about other social issues, whether it was climate change or issues related to humanitarian issues in Africa. And I would see other diasporas from other countries who had a big voice in those debates. And I didn't see that with the African diaspora in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And also I didn't see a lot of organizations helping, sort of communities like mine, families like mine, to adjust and advance in the United States. And so I wanted to help close that gap. So I actually, when I went back to law school and got my credentials, it was with the vision of trying to create this organization. I moved from California, where I was working then, to New York to start the organization, and that was how it got started.
And you said it a while ago, you are just like originally from Ethiopia, yes. And then you went to the US.
Yes.
So today, when you look about the situation of the migrants in the US, mm-hmm. You are trying to make them, being together in order to have the same fights.
Yes.
But how do you do? What are the challenges you mm-hmm. are facing over there? Given yes. that even in Africa, it is maybe complicated to have yes. that unity.
Yes. Yes, so our mission says that we work to help Africans in the U.S. Advance economically, integrate socially, and engage civically. So we want to help people.
It is then in 3 dimensions.
3 dimensions, exactly. Okay. We want people to be better able to make a living, but then also to be part of the society and to have their voice heard on the issues that affect them. I think one of the things that's unique is that about the African diaspora in the U.S. is when we come, maybe people don't identify as part of as an African immigrant, right? Maybe they identify with their ethnic group. They say, oh, I'm Amhara, or I'm Fulani, or maybe they identify with their country. But America tends to push us all into one big basket, one big lump, it's only recently that people even start to see or understand the difference between multi-generational African Americans who've been there 7, 8 generations, many of them descended from enslaved Africans, mm-hmm. and the new arrivals. Now as the numbers are growing, mm-hmm. you're starting to see people more recognize, oh, these people are from Ethiopia or Senegal or Mali or Sudan. So you almost have to join with other Africans as a survival.
And it is easy, really, to just like make those two categories, I mean, together. Is it really easy for you?
Well, it's not easy. There are certainly tensions and conflicts, but I think people naturally start to come together as Africans.
Because
they have the common experience, and you see it a lot in the first generation, and with the children you see it even more. Right. You'll see even on social media, the things about my African parents, or the memes and things like that. It's because people recognize that you might be from one coast and I'm from the opposite coast of Africa, very far apart, but we have common experiences.
And you are also over, 25 years with just like experience in organizing and advocacy for Africans, for migrant Africans. But what are some maybe of the key achievements of your own or of your organization that today you can talk about?
Yes, well, I've been doing social change and nonprofit work for more than 25 years. Oh. ACT is about 11 years old, so I was doing other things before. But some of the things that we've done since we came into existence, we helped fight for a program called Liberian Refugee Immigration Fairness, or LRIF, that helped get papers for about 10,000 Liberians. We helped push that through Congress and to get it passed. People may know about the diversity visa. Sometimes they call it the green card lottery, the diversity visa. During the Trump administration, Trump said, you can't apply for this unless you have already a passport from your home country. And people in the US don't realize sometimes how in Africa, it's a lot to get a passport, right? Sometimes it takes a long time, you have to show a ticket. And so when they did this, applications went down from 13 million to 5 million. And most of the drop-off was in Africa. So we filed a lawsuit, and we said this program isn't fair, you didn't do it the correct way. And we managed to get that rule thrown away. And then we've worked also at the local level, the state level. We provide services. So we've helped a lot of people become citizens or get their immigration papers as well.
And today, you talked a while ago about the Trump administration. We are just like going through presidential elections in the US.
Yes.
I saw some of your reactions about those politics, those issues. What is your position about that? What do you think the politics should be doing, to help the African immigrants over there?
Well, unfortunately, this political campaign has been a little like a bad memory, because the same sort of rhetoric and tricks that we saw President Trump campaign on, or when he was running for president the first time, we're seeing them again, and it's targeting black migrants. So last time he flew to Minnesota and he said, oh, there was crime here, you're being invaded by Somalis. So last time it was Somalis. This time it's Haitians. And so, he said, oh, they're eating the pets in Ohio. So what happens when that happens is it makes America more dangerous for people. And we have, in Africa, we've seen the politics of ethnic cleansing. We've seen when one group talks about another group as if they weren't human, and how dangerous that rhetoric is. And so it's very important that we reject that rhetoric and say, this does not have a place in American society.
It doesn't have a place, but also, your organization also works to build, as I said a while ago, unity among the different African communities.
Yes. So,
how do you do exactly to try and manage, Senegalese people, Malian people, Ethiopian? How do you do in order to make them for fighting for their rights?
It's a great question. So some of the ways that we do it is to bring people together around their shared concerns. So for example, people care about their community, they care about their identity, but most people day to day, they're trying to work, they're trying to make a living, they're trying to send money home or support their family here. Yeah, their housing, you know, they care about housing. So for example, we've been doing multi-year advocacy with a group of Ethiopian and Sudanese immigrants who all live in the same housing complex. And so there we're talking to people about jobs, or about housing and rent and eviction. The other thing I think that we can do is sharing our culture. You know, I mean, our African cultures are like our superpower, right? It's you know, one of the greatest gifts that we have and that we've given to humanity is the beautiful, you know, the music, the art, the poetry, the culture. Nowhere more than here in Dakar. You know, I mean, just this is clearly a city of poets and artists. And so sometimes more than words is hearing each other's music, learning each other's dances. We just did a national convention of our members, and there were dance lessons, and we were learning each other's dances. We had a griot jelly, and then we also had an Ethiopian asmari, so that, you know, we were learning each other's music and traditions. So I think that's one way we can bring
great. So congratulations for, I mean, congratulations for those actions. But you know, I mean, most of the time when we are in Africa, in our countries, as young people, we tend to think that in the US or other countries, it is paradise. I mean, everything is nice, everything is okay. So what is the reality that should be known?
It's very hard. You know, the US is you know, life can be a struggle in the US. And I think it's hardest if you come with nothing, right? If you come, maybe the people who do the green card lottery, they at least get, they have their papers, their working papers from the first day they arrive. They have, you know, maybe, you know, some supportive services to help them figure out where to go, those kinds of things. But the ones who come, who sell everything and fly to South America, and then they come through South America and enter in the, you know, US-Mexico border, the journey is incredibly difficult, and the arrival is incredibly difficult. We are working, you know, we've had 200,000 migrants come to New York in the last few years. About 40,000 of those came from West Africa, Senegal, Guinea, Mauritania. Those are the three biggest countries. And the stories they tell about the land journey are truly frightening. What they have survived, what they have experienced, what they have seen is, you know, sometimes it's very damaging. You know, violence, people who died along the way, women who were assaulted. It's extremely traumatic. What happens for most of those people is they then enter the U.S., you know, through the southern border. Now the borders have gotten much more closed. It's more difficult to enter. But then they spend a certain amount of time in detention. Once they're released, if they can show, you know, I have some basis to ask for asylum, people don't understand that, you know, you're released with almost nothing, you know, maybe a one-way ticket. And most people have spent all of their money during the land journey. You know, maybe you think you're only going to pay once, but you have to pay again and again and again. You know, somebody kidnaps someone and you have to pay to get them out. So people, by the time they're released, and I've seen this both in California, where the border is, and where they're released there, and then how people arrive in New York, they have almost nothing. And so they go to the the asylum seeker resettlement center. And if they come to New York, at least they get 30 days of shelter. But 30 days goes very quickly. And so after, and the shelters are, they're not paradise. They're just.
It's really heart-touching to hear about it and understand it like this. But what should be done now, maybe to give the right information to Africa?
Exactly. That's the main thing, is to give the right information to people. I think you know, we're going to help people, the people who arrive as best we can in my organization. We're not going to tell people come, don't come. You know, that's your decision. You know, but we will tell people how difficult it is. And it's, if you do come through something like the diversity visa, or you come, now there's private sponsorship for refugees, if people are able to come that way, you start with something. You know, you don't start with nothing, which a lot of time is what people start with. So I think it's important that people see the true stories. I think it's important that people question what they see on social media, on, you know, TikTok or you know, Facebook, or these videos that circulate on WhatsApp. I think that it's important that people look past them and ask, why is someone want to sell me this story? Why do they want me to believe this?
What is the interest behind?
What is the interest behind it? Yes.
But also, maybe it is a problem. I mean, most of the people, they don't know the right informations. But in the other hand, we know it is also, I mean, the right to be, it is our right to be free to move, to travel.
Yes.
What should be done then to just like maybe facilitate the circulation for Africans?
Yes. So I absolutely believe in the freedom to move. I also believe in the freedom to stay, right? We should, people in Senegal and other parts of Africa who are helping people build livelihoods here, who are helping them, you know, stay and put down roots, should be supported. That's one thing. Make it more attractive, more viable for people to stay. You know, long term, I truly believe that there should be freedom of movement. People should be able to go and work and come back. I think sometimes when you make it very difficult to enter, it means people stay and they don't go. You know, people would love to come back for a wedding, for a funeral, for, you know, just to visit, and it's very difficult, especially if you don't have your papers. So I think we need to, in the same way that corporations can move across border, that the capital and money can move across borders, people should be able to move across borders too.
Because the reason why I asked that question is that maybe immigration policy, you know, most of the time change. I mean, it is ever changing.
Yes.
We never know. You know, there are many changes that are happening. So now, do you think it is possible to have maybe a solution that is going to allow just like to just like solve definitively that problem? Yes,
I think it's very difficult to do any definitive solutions in American politics right now. You know, immigration, climate change, healthcare, education, even these, you know, issues that are very personal to people, it's very difficult because the country is so split and locked. You know, the politics are so split and locked. I truly believe that over the long term, the U.S. and the West are, Africa is young. Africa is growing. The population is growing, the workforce is growing. I truly believe that they're going to want more migration from Africa eventually. So I do think a lot of the things we take for granted right now about immigration, in 30 years, they're going to look upside down.
Right. Right, that's what I was saying. I mean, the politics are changing, but also, I mean, looking forward, what are your plans? I mean, with your organization, ACT, that's ACT or ACT?
Both, either way.
Okay, so what are your plans? What do you plan to do for the future, maybe?
Yes.
In order to accomplish your mission?
Yes. So whoever is elected president, whoever has control of Congress, we're going to be guided by the same values. But obviously the opportunities will be very different depending on the politics. So we're going to continue, like our North Star, our guiding light is really, we want massive legalization for many people without papers. We want the U.S. to step up and do its fair share for humanitarian immigration. We want you know, people to be able to get their work papers more quickly and effectively. So we'll continue to advocate for that. We're also looking for opportunities that don't require, for example, that maybe a president could do on their own. So right now, I think, for example, the visa system is very biased, and it's very biased against Africans especially. You know, ask anyone, would you rather apply for a visa in, you know, in Dakar or in Stockholm? You know, and they'll all say the same thing, but why? Why should that be? We want to advocate for rules that the government can change without having legislation. But mostly what we're really doing is building community, because we don't know what the fight will be in 5 years, but we know that the people will, you know, bringing the people together, you know, will lead to that work.
And by the way, I mean, what do you think will be your, I mean, your means? How are you going to be organized? Do you have just like maybe intern partners over there in the US, or what do you, my question is mostly, do you have really, I mean, the help of our leaders here in Africa? Do you really have the help, or?
It's a good question. So we've had some partnership or engagement with, you know, the diplomatic presence in the U.S. I think that
because it's done for mostly for them.
Yes,
it's their responsibility also.
Yeah, I think there could be a lot more, if I'm being honest. You know, we work for, so on the diplomatic side, for example, we see Mexico, the Philippines, these other countries that a lot of their nationals are there. They'll give them information about their right to pay, you know, so they don't get cheated at work. They'll give them information about how to, their immigration rights. I would love to see stronger partnerships with, you know, and we're in New York. You know, it's where the home of the UN. It's everyone has a consulate there. A mission. We'd love to see our African governments helping inform the nationals, because everyone's counting on them to send money home, everyone's counting on them to support, you know, their families, but they need support too, you know?
They need support too. So I think we are unfortunately at the end of this show. I'm going to give you the opportunity maybe to send your message to the African youth. What do you have to say? What is the message?
Well, I think that the African youth are going to lead the way. I think that whether it's here on the continent or whether it's in the U.S., I think we can build bridges, you know, to come together from both sides of the ocean. And I think that Africa is the future, and the youth are the future of Africa.
Thank you very much. That was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, dear viewers. We were really happy to welcome, Amaha Kassa. He is, as I said it, passionate advocate of, for African communities. He is the founder and executive director of African Communities Together, and he has as a mission to work in order to improve the lives and living conditions of African immigrants. And that was a pleasure to welcome you. Thank you very much, and we give you appointment in another show, Question 2 in Amani TV. Thank you.